freedom of knowing you're not just operating out of the pattern, right? You're operating because you want to.
Welcome to the show, Caitlin Naramore. Thank you so much for being here today. I want to share with everyone, Caitlin, there's something about her energy that I want to I want to bring out in this conversation, and it's something that I've been thinking about and yeah, reflecting on, and that is what does it mean to be a woman, and what does that look like to be feminine in business? What does that look like to show up in a strong, embodied feminine energy? And that's something that I know that's important to Caitlin, and one of the reasons I wanted to have her on the show and have a conversation about what she's doing in the world and what that looks like to her. So welcome, Caitlin.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm super
Wonderful.
excited to be here. Yeah.
And I would love for you to share with the audience a little bit about you. What do you want the audience to know about you in this moment?
Okay. In this moment, my secondhand running mate over here, my cat, who's like the other love of my life. I'll start with my cat. He's right here, and he always likes to be part of like anything I do. My little fur baby. But I'm Caitlin. I'm the founder of the Modern Queen. Modern Queen. It is my it's been about close to 6 years I've been in business
Mm,
now. And I help female entrepreneurs get their groove on in their business capacity, their business acuity, their messaging, their brand vibe. And like you said, just this feminine approach. It's my tagline to business and life.
mm.
I'm someone who, well, I've just always been a very feminine woman. And it's been,
Well,
oh, go ahead.
what do you mean by feminine? Just to share, just go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's a really good question. Have I ever really defined that for myself in that way? I've certainly had it reflected to me a lot, but I think being a feminine woman is the word that comes to mind. There's a certain grace.
Mm,
I can't claim to always be this way, but there's a certain calm. I've always kind of had an innate
mhm,
calm, and when I say calm, it's like a flow.
mhm.
There's a
And it
flow.
seems like maybe a groundedness too. When you say that,
Sometimes,
it feels like
except for when I'm not, but yes. Thank you for that reflection. No, as a general state of being, yeah, there's a groundedness and a balance.
Mhm.
And it's not just like, oh, I'm just feminine and therefore like I don't have to lift a pinky kind of thing. I've never been that way. I mean, I was a private chef for many years and
Mm,
hustled my butt off, worked
mm,
my butt off.
right,
So there's always that masculine component. We call it masculine, but that's the action, taking
right.
action, putting yourself out there, doing the things, having that structure and consistency. And I'm 100% down for that. And I've learned women operate a little bit differently than men do. We have literally a monthly flow.
Mm,
We are on, and then sometimes we need to like dip down and get a little quieter. So yeah, for me, it's honoring rhythm, honoring my body's rhythms, and yeah, a certain amount of elegance, beauty, like expression,
mm.
of the ways in which I don't know. I think just women have always had that alluring grace. It's an alluring grace.
One of the things I think of as you're describing that is, I know for myself and a lot of the clients that I work with who are women at a certain age, I don't know if it's so much true now for the younger generation, but certainly my generation, there was this need to almost tap into more of the masculine energy to prove
Mhm.
to whoever, to get a raise, to get a promotion, to get accepted, whatever it is.
They have to kind of
And
match it, right?
yeah, and I love what you're doing because I think right now we're recognizing that's limiting to us,
Hmm.
right? It's limiting. Now, there are a lot of great things about the masculine energy. I mean, that's how we get things done. Really, right? But it's limiting if you don't tap into that the feminine part of it. So as you're speaking, I'm just thinking, wow, there's a lot of women in my generation who honestly, I had to think about what I wore to work,
Right,
like,
right,
and go extreme other directions so that no one had any misunderstanding about why I was there, right?
right,
Looking a lot less feminine, a lot more, I don't want to say masculine, but just like not acknowledging the feminine part. So what are you noticing in your current clients? And I'd be curious what your thoughts are about the younger generation versus my generation.
right, right. Well, I mean, I just want to pause for a second because I think what you just said is so profound and like, being in a masculine run world, where men for the most part, right, are, the head of the company and, running the show and everything. And like as you were just describing it, it's like as we've had to kind of contort ourselves, right? We've had to like become contortionists to
Right,
fit. And I think part of what's so exciting and groundbreaking for particularly this entrepreneurial path that many of us have chosen, that like we literally get to like write it
right,
ourselves, right?
right,
And
right.
write it, right?
Yeah,
Like
both.
for women, we get to like write the ship. And I think that's why there's such this kind of big movement, like an
Mhm.
uprising of women stepping into leadership and going like, yeah, and I'm going to do it in a way that feels right to my body. I'm going to do it in a way that I do get to be sexy. I get to do it in a way that I, don't have to like put on all those suits
Right,
and behaviors and whatever, masks to be able to fit into a world that was, um,
right,
set up not for our success.
right.
Right. And I was even thinking, I was like, imagine if like women ran the world and men had to act more feminine to fit in.
Right,
We
right,
don't think about that, but like,
right.
and I've honestly never thought about that until you
Yeah,
were talking. And I'm like, imagine that.
yeah.
And we
What
wouldn't
would be
want
different?
what would
Mm,
be different? We wouldn't want our men to
right,
contort
right,
themselves. We
right.
want them to be masculine.
Yeah,
And I get there's like variations, and some women are inherently more quote unquote masculine in this way we're
right.
describing, and that's awesome. It's whatever, it's being more true to your own,
That's what I was thinking of, right? Like honoring all of who you are
honoring
and
all
and not cutting off or not dismissing or not like burying parts of who
that.
you are,
Yeah,
but bringing
or
in
having to
all of who you
pretend,
are. Yeah.
yeah, that you're anything else. Now, okay, can you repeat your question again? Because I just want to speak to all of that. How it's in our different generations, is that what it was?
Yeah, I was just curious about your thoughts about what's shifting and changing, or have you seen anything? I tend to work with people who have been in the work world for a while, so they're of a certain generation. I don't work as much with the really Gen X, generation. I'm just curious. At least with the people I've worked with, it seems like they're less willing to cover up all of who they are. And I just wondered if what you had seen, what you had noticed.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really great question. I'm thinking, I mean, the women I work with, they're all like trailblazers, and
Yeah.
they're all really have, either they've been doing it, for a long time, or they're brand new. It's kind of, I work with both. I work with women who are like rebranding or
Mm-hmm.
wanting to shift their model of business in some way. So I can help with women with that. But then I also help with, brand new. Mostly I help women who are just getting started, and I help them to really step into their voice, their magic, their medicine, their talent, whatever it is that they really bring to the table. So yeah, I'm thinking of recent clients. I mean, one woman, her entire, life's work is feminine embodiment. She is a
Mm-hmm.
dance teacher. She's
Mm-hmm.
a,
Yeah.
movement instructor, and she's very like, um, like, let's not do the patriarchal thing. That's very much
Right.
part of her lingo, right? Um, Another client that comes to mind is she's younger. I actually don't know her age, but she's incredibly sensuous,
Mm.
incredibly feminine, and she's very much into her creative expression. So we work to weave her creativity into a more, you know, coacherly, make that word up, programs and these kind of more structured
To
offers.
bring in the more structure
Bring
to,
in the more structure.
yeah,
And
for
I
the more,
relate to her very much because, as you know, I make music and I've also been a chef for many years and I'm writing a cookbook. So I have a highly creative streak. I'm a poet, I'm a painter. Like I like creativity is my life
well,
force.
I also want to underline, I mean, multidimensional, right? I mean, I think some
Yeah,
people listening to this might have been on a career path that is where they're missing out. Maybe they're not tapping into some of what is inherently who they are. And I just want to highlight or underline it. It sounds like, and what I know of you, that there is a bit to your word early on about flow. There's a flow to, ooh, a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that at this particular point in my life, like listening to your intuitive prompts about how to
exactly.
express at that particular point, whether it's through creating food or creating music or working, coaching with women.
Exactly. And throughout the years, because it's always been, some combination of all of the above. Like as a
Mhm.
healer, I've worked as a healer, I've run, women's retreats and workshops throughout the years. So it's always kind of the same message, but expressed through different venues, so to speak,
Right.
but always about, expression, creativity, empowerment. And with the modern queen, that's just been this like next level of
Mhm.
like really like owning it and also being like, okay, how do I, like, in a way it's like I can't do it all. As one,
Right.
I've wanted to like,
Right.
clone myself so that each part of me could do all the parts like to their fullest extent. Um but what it does do is it helps me help other women spread their magic,
Right.
their
Right.
particular gifts by being a coach and by supporting them in their endeavors.
Right.
So that's worked out to just be this beautiful way to kind of like multiply my own passions, but through all these different expressions of the feminine.
Right. I love that. So if someone were listening right now and maybe they haven't thought too much about, maybe they're in a corporate role, maybe they've kind of been on the same career path and they're curious about what does it mean to tap more into that feminine energy? What would you recommend that they do first?
Hmm. Oh, great question. Take a lot of baths. Scented, candlelit baths. Buy yourself flowers. Like I'm so that,
No,
that
I mean, but there's a
being,
lot of people who that hasn't been part of their
yeah.
daily,
I think
daily
that's why
life.
it's the first thing
Yeah.
that comes to
Yeah.
mind. It's like doing, because again, I'm also just a very sensuous being and things that,
Mhm.
and we can call that feminine. My partner, look, he's also actually very into like smells and we make candles together and like, so we can call it feminine, but just stepping into your sensuality,
Right. Right.
I think is, when that can be dancing, it can be getting in your body in
Yeah.
some way that isn't like, I'm going to work out for,
Right. 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 Yeah. It's
just,
a very different.
and that's
Put
all
some
fine and
music on
good.
and move your body.
Yeah, but like, I don't know, belly dance comes to mind, or, even, yeah, just letting yourself move,
Yeah.
um, touch,
Yeah.
whether that's, in a partnership where you're, having good sacred touch in that way, or, getting massage, doing like
Yeah.
spa days, self-care days,
You make me think of receiving.
receiving,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
word.
Like when you're
And
saying that, it's like
earlier when you
receiving.
you asked me about my femininity, that is, I
Um,
did not speak it, it came to mind. And anyone who knows me knows that I'm an incredibly receptive being, like
mhm.
very receptive. And I think that's one of the primary qualities, of the feminine yin yang, right?
Right.
The
Which is interesting again when you think about, and I put myself in this place, right? There was a point in my life before my mom died where it was all just, you know, prove yourself, do the work, and it was very, very it was definitely more masculine energy.
Mhm.
And who had the time to sit around and take a bath and who had the time to spend, money or time on flowers. That type of thing was me. So it was
Uh,
my mom's death that had me wake up to the part that I had shut down for whatever reason. I mean, I think when I grew up, that's just how you were successful as a
Mhm.
female was to adopt that. And so I just lost I went into that, and then I was trying to get back to
Receptivity.
the receptivity. Um, Going from that place of being very the opposite of receptive, whatever that would be, and then saying, oh, I want to play with this, I want to test this out, I want to tap into it, it's actually uncomfortable at first. I just want to say that out loud for anyone who's listening, is if even the talk of a daily bath it might make you uncomfortable if you're not used to it, but it's an opportunity to expand who you are. So
Yeah.
I love that you're sharing, and I love that you're sharing that. And I also love that you're sharing that your partner, who's a man, is also receptive, is also creative, is also, and I just want to say that because as we're speaking and using these words in this conversation, it's not just one gender or the
And
other.
the woman, exactly.
Right,
There are
right,
qualities there, and typically a man typically would embody more of the masculine qualities based on that polarity. That,
right,
that's not always the case, right? There's
right,
plenty
right.
of very feminine men and vice versa,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um,
But I think it's about let's tap into all of who we are.
yes,
Like in
exactly.
the end, it kind of doesn't matter. It's like, if we go male, female, masculine, feminine, it's like, hey, what does it look like to tap into all of who we are? And
Yes, and there are women, in this world who they're like, I'm going to sit on my lotus pad and just let everything, kind of come to me. And I'm not a proponent for that either. I'm like, girl, you gotta hustle. You got, we have to in a business format anyways, there is action and activity and
Mhm.
lots of doing to be done. It's more when I work with more highly feminine women, it's finding that balance. It's going like,
Yeah,
go take a walk in nature today,
yeah,
in the morning, then come back and do all your emails and do your posts and do your,
right,
or,
right,
whatever, or set up structure your week in a way that it's about like, you can structure it so that you have all your needs met and you don't have to lose your feminine essence essentially
right.
to the grind. Um,
It's interesting. It sounds like your clients tend to, it's like they're needing some of that, the structure, the masculine energy that tend to be in the highlight. And whereas most of my clients, I would say, are coming from the other direction,
isn't
which
that
is really
interesting?
interesting,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's really about that piece that maybe hasn't been at the forefront, right? And being able to tap into that, whichever way it is. I mean,
Yes.
it's really interesting as you speak. I'm like, oh wow, your lens, your perspective is one of helping to create a bit more of that, the masculine structure, the more action, the more yeah, like
Active
forward.
principle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
really
it's
cool.
exactly, and just that it's like again, the beautiful balance, and it's like even on a physics level, it's like nature takes form, and then there's flow within form,
Right,
right? It's just
right.
universe, like you can get into physics, like universal like principles. So it's like we
Yeah,
are that, we're
right,
not separate from that. So
right,
to resist form, which
right,
in this case we're talking a business because it is a form, it is a
right, right,
materialized, digitalized, like it has a form, it has a format, like you can't like that is so like, and it's
right.
a beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful, oh my God, that we can even do that.
Mm,
We can work from the comfort of our own home. We can work from
mm,
anywhere in the world. We can, we have the capacity now in these times with the way things are set up to be able to just run this gorgeous business and do it from Bali. I do, both a Locadia,
right,
we,
right.
like
Yeah,
work from anywhere and have the floral baths and have the, whatever, the delicious meals and all the things that, make life like luscious and like sustainable in that way,
right, right.
and do it within a structured flow. And I'm
I love,
all for that. And I am a woman who, despite how I'm highly feminine, I'm also really have that masculine streak.
mhm.
And I'm so down for it. And I'm like, proud is that's not quite the right word, but I'm like, hell yeah. Like
Yeah,
I'm so happy that balance exists, right? And so I can definitely assist other women to find that balance for their
What
own.
would you say in just kind of reflecting on this idea of the balance, right? The balance, the flow of both energies, or let's just say all energies, because there's so much more. Sometimes I think when we're testing out something new or we're trying something new, like in my case, really mindfully looking at what does it look to be more receptive? What is it? What does that look like? What does it feel like? Right? It feels a little bit uncomfortable and you don't know how much, right? You're like, oh, am I going too far? So what would you say to how would anyone listening,
Mhm.
whatever their gender, how to tap into the flow piece of it, right? Like being able to move from one to the other. What would you say to someone just wondering, how do you incorporate, how do you bring in all of that?
Breath. For one, but well, I mean, again, well, okay, my mind is going in a few different directions at once because what also comes to mind is I think, and I can speak for myself in this way because as much as I have this ability to, we're calling it flow, and this ability, I also, I have a side of me that is, for lack of a better word, kind of controlling.
Okay.
I have that, like I like to like now I like to like plan my trips and like, have a certain order to things,
Right.
right? And I think there's a lot of women, as we're describing, they're like, for whatever reason, society and stuff, it's like women are like in those masculine roles and that kind of more type A and that do and that action and that go and that like sympathetic nervous system, maybe even, right?
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
go, go, go. So you said it's a couple times that it can be uncomfortable,
Right.
right? So I think there could be honestly some fear in letting go,
Right. Right.
and so and fear of letting go of control or
Right.
letting go, thinking like the whole, your whole life's gonna
All
crumble,
apart. Right.
fall apart if I, take a
Don't
bath.
maintain. Yeah.
Bath
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
is a theme. We're going with that one today. But or like if I take 20 minutes out for myself,
Right.
or if I start to breathe more deeply,
Mhm.
oh right, I can, what can I let go of? What can I bring awareness to if there's any fear or any, like, oh, if I slightly let go of my grip on all of the things as a mother, as, like maybe some women are in school, maybe some, there's so many layers where people hustle to a point of like, you know, having to like survive, right?
Right. Right.
That to even let go might be
Right.
terrifying.
Yeah. Oh,
I
definitely.
just want to speak to that because that's real, I think, for
Yeah.
so
It is.
many people. And
Yeah.
there, and there's layers upon layers. There could be trauma, there could be, all kinds of different layers of human, what I would call
Right.
human conditioning,
Right. Right.
right? That like might be like, whoa, is it safe?
Right.
Is it safe to feel? Because
Mm.
guess what? If you go out of your normal MO and you're going, 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 if you were to slow down, self,
Yeah.
self
Yeah.
care, self give, self receive, move into that space, whoa, there might be some like really powerful emotions there,
Right.
like just waiting kind of on the other side of like, oh, I'm gonna,
Well, certainly sometimes staying busy is a distraction,
yeah,
right? So if you slow down, you lose the illusion that you're in control because we're actually not in control. But you lose that illusion of control. I mean, I know for me, I couldn't meditate
hmm
because taking the time felt like a waste of time.
yeah,
I mean, I couldn't, the first time I ever did yoga, I could not lay down and do shavasana. I
oh
thought this is a
wow,
waste of time. So
yeah.
that's me. That was me a while ago, but
And I'm like, get me to Shavasana girl over here. This is great.
it's like to me to lay down and do nothing
Mhm.
was just like that's a waste of time. I mean,
Yeah.
that's honestly where I was many, many years ago. I'm not there anymore, thank goodness. But
Well,
but
Shavasana,
it's
maybe
real.
5 minutes, 10 minutes,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. It feels like a long time.
But one day, it's probably not every day even, right? Like, I'm
Right.
sure you're speaking on behalf of a lot of
Oh,
women and men,
yeah. Yeah,
who
definitely.
operate that way. And there's like almost like an endemic of stress,
Mm-hmm.
go, go,
Go,
go.
go, go. It's that, you need to keep going. And I mean, I think ultimately we could break that down. There's a lot underneath that, are you worthy if you're just receiving? Are you worthy if you're just being, right? There's a whole lot under that. But it's in, and I believe it's changing. I don't know what you think, but do you think the culture's changing? Because I know when I grew up, it was go, 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 go. And this is how you are respected. This is how you are,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. And again, I think we're sort of frontlining it. And I do, I think there's still plenty of that, but if we're changing because I think there's more awareness around it, right? And we're going like, wait a second, is burning ourselves out and like
yeah,
based on, like our parents' heavy expectations of us, or, because
right,
so many people are more and more electing to go into like deeper healing
right,
and understanding what has been conditioned, what they've sort of developed and they think is their personality, but maybe it's actually not. It's
right,
something,
right.
survival mechanism that got developed from an early age. Whoa, I mean, it gets real, real, and then underneath that, there's, we're all, I get even a little emotional here. We're all just, really probably very just tender-hearted,
Yeah,
right?
I
And,
agree.
you think of like the inner child, like, and whatever we had to develop to like make it through life. And sometimes the most successful people, that's what, they're coming from all of that. And then
Mhm.
you go, oh shit, maybe my complete success is at stake if
Right.
that part of my like
That's
ego's development, has like is like no like, oh shoot, I understand what I've been operating out of.
right. Well, and it's interesting you say that. I agree. I have a lot of my clients get to a point where so they're increasing the awareness of some of those patterns,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
they're also those patterns are connected to a level of success. So
Right.
you become aware of it, and then you just tapped on that, that moment where you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to give that up because it's actually worked very well for me.
Really
And
well.
so there's a little bit of I don't know. I mean, I've had a number of clients say, but it works. Beating
Right.
myself up
Work.
worked. It allowed me to get the straight A's, it allowed me to get into, doctoral program. It allowed me to get into a legal program. It allowed me to get this, this job title. It allowed me to get this amount of success. And it can be monetary, but it doesn't have to be monetary. It can be what, kind of what you show the world. And so there's this, okay, now that I see it, but it worked for me. So why would I undo that? But
Yeah.
I like to say there's even more available to you,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the way that I look at it is you don't have to get rid of it. You don't have
No.
to cut that off. That's a really super powerful part of who you are. And you get to choose in
Mm-hmm.
each moment
Mm-hmm.
which direction you want to go. And it's that mindful choosing that I think what
Yeah.
I see, at least with my clients, I'd love to hear what you
Yeah, and
say is
the
that
freedom of knowing you're not just operating
right,
out of the pattern, right? You're operating because you want to. You're
yeah,
operating because it feels good. You're
yeah,
operating because yes, this works and I enjoy it. I think it's when all of that, kind of compounds into you feel like you're in a box. You feel like you're contorting to be more
right,
masculine. You
right,
feel like you're doing it because your mom wanted you to be a certain way. You're doing it because, like if you're doing it like kind of for the wrong reasons, yay, it got you here. And hopefully there can be some grieving around the parts that might have, been coming from a less free state. I don't know how else to
right,
say that,
right, yeah, right,
And then you go, okay, well, what, okay, I've certainly developed the capacity for success. So
mhm,
that's awesome. My bandwidth is like large
right,
for that. How can I now do that in a way that's like sustainable, that's absolutely true to myself, brings awareness, like, and it's going to be so different for each person and so
right, right,
nuanced, right?
right.
Right.
And as you say that, I just get excited. I love it's an adventure,
Yes.
right? And the people who sign up and say, yes, I want to be on this adventure, they get to explore and see, like, what do I like? What feels good? What really is me? And what was just patterns that I picked up. So you mentioned early on that you have all these different ways that you express who you are or have expressed who you are in the world. Um, Speak a little bit about your music. What's happening with your music?
Yeah. So just we're approaching a year that I released my EP called Destiny, and it was a lifelong dream that took a
Mm.
minute to get there. There was always
Always good for everyone to hear, Caitlin, because
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
some people think it happens overnight. So
yeah, not in my case. I had music is just in my soul, and I started just singing, in my 20s, about 20 plus years ago.
and was that for fun or were you professionally singing? What?
Both.
Okay.
Both. It started out as for fun. It started out as like not thinking I could sing, and then having these moments in my life that suddenly my voice like burst out, and I was like, "Whoa, who's
Mhm.
that?" Whoa. Like, you mean I
Wow.
can sing? Like, I had for some reason, I don't know where it came from an early age. I just
Me
been
too.
okay, and
Oh,
bet you there's plenty of people listening who could raise
oh
their
yeah, I'm sure. I mean, and I actually I actually right before COVID, 2019, I signed myself up for singing lessons specifically to undo that.
There you
And
go.
it was what you were just saying of like, whoa, like
Yeah.
you meet another part of who you are, which is fascinating. I mean, in my mind, I'm like, I can't sing. And, of course, I'm not going to go on some big stage tomorrow, but it's you meet another
Yeah.
part of who you are.
Yeah.
So you went, it sounds
And
like
it,
you
and
also
it, I remember these moments of just being like, it was like, yeah, meeting my and being like, wow, she's in there, and like I have that voice, and like,
right,
wow, and so yeah, then I've just seen casually at parties and gatherings and with friends, and just in these whatever opportunity, I
right,
really liked it, once I found
right,
my voice, I was like, I liked using it.
right.
And then like I was in a band for a second, like
Oh,
as a
really?
singer-songwriter. It was a global, it was cool because it was different, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Different writers, what's the word I'm looking for? Like
The composers?
composers, thank
Okay.
you. That's the word. I think orchestration, composers, different composers from all over the world. Um, Digital, kind of emo.
Hmm.
It was
Hmm.
great. It was like, oh, I love the music. It was a band called Triad.
Okay.
So I got to contribute my voice in a couple of songs I wrote. And so that was sort of the beginning of my songwriting. So
Okay.
I understood I actually had a bit of a talent for that. I was like, woo,
Hmm.
lyrics and the whole get a song structure. And then I was like in a duet. A friend of mine, he played guitar. He was an amazing guitar player, and we would sing songs from like all over the world. I learned songs in like 17 languages. Like I
Oh,
was like,
cool.
yeah, really, really just
That's fun.
yeah, like kind of the global tapestry of sound.
Right. Right.
I sang in a Bulgarian women's choir for a while. I sang in a women's choir in New York as well. So I would do, I would spring. I had
Very eclectic.
very
I
eclectic,
love it.
yeah, multidimensional,
Yeah.
eclectic. Yeah, I've always been like that. Including world travels and stuff. I love the world.
Right. Me too.
All the flavors and all the different sounds and all the things. So that was all happening. And then internally, I always was like, I played a little rudimentary guitar. My
Mhm.
dad plays guitar, and he would gift me guitars since I was a teenager. Um,
Mhm.
Hold on one second. I'll tickle in the throat. um, so I learned a little, really rudimentary though, just strumming. So I was able to learn some songs, Bruce Springsteen and I don't know, David Bowie, like
Mhm.
Beyonce. I'd learn, songs I liked and just learn how to strum and sing. And then, but I always was like, I wanted to make my music,
Right.
and I felt limited because I didn't feel like I had the, like I had some lessons in Ableton. That's like a song creating
Okay.
digital site.
Ableton. Okay.
It's called Ableton. Yeah,
Okay.
it's, a lot of DJs use it, a lot of music producers use it, and I didn't really have like what it takes to really sit and like learn that.
Right.
Speaking of masculine structure, I was like, oh my, this is somebody else's brain, and not quite like I could get the rudimentary parts, but not like in
Mhm.
extent. So, anyways, I just always felt limited, like in how I would actually go forth and create the sound that was inside of me.
Mhm.
So I would occasionally sing a song online, and I did a Facebook Live. My partner's ex's sister happened to see me playing a song, and she was like, wow, you have a beautiful voice. Did you know there is a producer there in Tucson?
Hmm.
And this Illusion Studios. And I was like, cool. So I reached out to him, and then it was this weird where then I didn't follow through.
Hmm.
I don't know why. I don't know quite, what was going on at the time. I can't remember the full story behind it, but I do remember this one defining moment. And this is my partner, Alok, and his just like, there's a reason he's a highly successful coach, because he will bring the sort of urgency, tough love version of things through, where he was like, Kaylin, it will be a crime to humanity if you die with your music still locked inside of you. Whew, get emotional again.
Yeah.
A crime to humanity. And that was like what I needed to hear. I was just like, oh,
And this was how long ago?
this was like few
Okay.
years, couple years. Um,
So he lit the fire under you? Is that what you're saying?
that's what he's really good at that. He's a fire starter, that one.
Okay.
He lights the fire under like hundreds, if not thousands of people, like that's his thing. He lights fires, and he lit it, and it worked. It just hit
Mm.
home. I was like, shit, okay. Excuse me, I swear a little bit.
Oh, it's okay.
Um, so I reached out to that producer again, and sure enough, he was able to help me compose music. And we were able to hire musicians
Wow.
to come in, and I would come in with like lyrics. I would come in with little sound bites of songs.
Right.
I would come
Right.
in with these kind of like loosely formed,
Right.
and he's like, well, what key is it in? I'm like, Jim, I have no idea. Like, I'm not a musician. Like, I didn't, but
So
I
he helped to put the structure around.
yeah.
Yeah, I love
In this
that.
case, it was like the ultimate feminine, where I'm like, I got
Mm.
the voice, I got, this like soulful thing. I just need help translating it. And then so he was able to absolutely put the structure to it. And we put together 5 tracks.
Mm.
And that was my goal. I don't know why, but I was always like, I got to make an EP. Like, if I could get an EP out, not a full length album, like, first step, right? So we did it.
So
And
what did it mean to you when that was complete?
oh my God. Yes,
And this is for everyone out there who has something kind of lingering in the back of their mind
yeah.
that they feel pulled, but they haven't necessarily taken action to. What did it mean to actually complete that?
I mean, a big part, like, I can die in peace now.
Mm,
I mean, it's that, like, it was something
huge.
so, like, I did the thing that was
Hmm.
on my back,
Hmm.
in the back of my consciousness, like in my spirit, like,
Right.
for whatever reason. I like a former coach of mine, she would say, like, God put that dream on your heart for a reason.
Hmm.
And so, like, I did it, I fulfilled, and I made music that's for the people who have discovered it, and I'd still like it to get out there more. But like, I have women who listen to it every single morning as their inspiration, as their,
Mm.
these are like badass women doing amazing things in the world. And they will, I
Did
have,
you give us the link for that?
of
So that
course,
anyone listening? Okay. Did
yeah.
did you already? If not, I need to
Well,
grab
where
it.
do I do that?
I'll get it. I'll get it afterward. I want to
Okay.
make sure it's in the show notes for people so that
Yeah.
they can connect.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I've had people, just absolutely cry over it and just be like, wow, like, just moved, right?
Right.
Um, a huge compliment. She's a former client of Alok's. She was at our big event that we do every year, Transcendence. And he played one of my tracks during one of the writing exercises, this
Mm.
very deep moment. And she actually tried to
Oh,
Shazam it.
Shazam it.
This was before it had been officially
Oh,
Spotify or iTunes, because
right, right,
the people who came to Transcendence would get like, I sang
right,
the debut song there, like they would get
right.
like, the pre release stuff. And so, but I was like, she literally went up to the AV guy and was like, "What was that song? Like, I have to have that song." He's
Mm.
like, "That was Caitlin," and I was like, "Oh,
Oh, that's
I feel
great.
like anybody's Shazamming my music, and she herself is like deeply steeped in music. It just like it means the world to me, it really means so, so much. And again, that it touches women who are leaders, it touches them and helps them move their day forward. Like, wow.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it
So we'll definitely make sure that that link is there for anyone who wants to check that out. And I'd love to ask you, when you, for anyone who does kind of have that on their heart, right? Something, whatever it is, w- given where you are now, that you said I mean, to say that you could die peacefully and like that, that's a huge thing, right? Um, what would you say to that person who
and
has something
like
that
I say, they have something
there's
they've been wanting
something,
to do.
yeah, something that wants to be expressed, but they don't really know next steps?
Right, right. I mean, I would knock on doors, I would pray, I would do anything you can, find what, you can definitely like write what would be the next step. Like start to
Hmm.
like, I don't know the next step, but if there was a next step, what do I think
It
that
looked like,
next step might be?
yeah, yeah.
Who could I reach out to? Who might be in that industry? Who might be in, some,
I, you just made me think it's almost like just creating space to reflect on it.
yeah,
Because I think sometimes we just keep going and it's just back there. But if you create the space, then suddenly things start to, someone reaches out, like you got someone connected you with someone, right?
yeah,
You don't know if you're not taking the time and the space to just reflect on it a little bit. Like,
yeah,
what would it look like? What would the next step look like? What could be possible? It's almost that imagining, right? That daydreaming, imagining piece, allowing it to take a little bit of form, even if
big,
you don't know exactly what it looks like.
big time. And I think like this is such a good like weaving it all together, because what we've been talking about is that do, go, go, go. You're lacking that space for reflection. And
Right.
that's where meditation, daily baths, walking,
That's
shavasana, like whatever
right.
that passive state,
Right.
there's a reason. It's not, and like, and hopefully that actually people can relate to that even better. They're like, wait a second, if those passive states, those that are uncomfortable for me, allow me to dream, allow me to have some perspective on my life, allow me to slow down enough to be like, oh, whoa, 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 what is that next step?
Right.
That's gonna work in your favor.
Right.
I'm a huge, I studied for years in New York a healing modality that brought us into our parasympathetic nervous system.
Mm.
And that's, where it's not the fight or flight, and it's
Right.
more deeply resourced. And when we're more resourced, better information
Yeah.
flows, we function better, we're not burnt out, we're like, all the things you really want.
Intuition is on.
Intuition is on,
Yeah.
hello, big
Mm.
time.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm such a proponent for finding that balance.
Yeah.
So the same thing goes for any dream that you have in your heart that hasn't been lived yet.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, take the
Create
space to
space.
reflect and to dream. And I also really believe in, and many people do this now, visualizing what you want,
Mhm.
visualizing it.
Well, but and at the same time, I have a lot of people say it's hard because I don't know exactly what it is, right? And that's back to
Yeah.
actually giving yourself the time and the space to dream first and just look for, I tell people, just look for what makes you smile, what makes your heart happy, what makes you feel good. Those are all clues
Yeah.
to what, to what it, like I notice for example, if I don't move my body enough, because for
Mhm.
that's really important for so many different things. It could be dancing, it could be hiking in nature, whatever it is. If for some reason I don't get enough of that in a week,
Mhm.
it completely affects how I see things, what my intuition is like, what I can visualize. So I say, look for the things that make you feel good. So for me,
Yeah.
it feels good to be in nature. Baths are high on Caitlin's list. I love baths
But
too.
so is
I
being
love
in nature, and so is
yeah,
exercise.
yeah.
Same and
Looking
that's
for those
endorphins.
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
looking for those things that bring you joy. I mean, I had a client one time, it was a color. It was a
Mm.
color, the color yellow. And
Oh,
she
I love that.
and she wanted to bring more yellow in. And by bringing more yellow into her day-to-day life, it touched that place in her, which then allowed her to get, to dream more, to be able to have greater clarity around it. So look for the things that bring you joy
You do.
and, creating that space to listen to what your heart wants, because it really is about tapping into all of who you are. I think that's what Caitlin and I were both talking about, is tapping into all of who you are. Like, who you are is amazing. And if you're shutting out a piece or a couple pieces of it, the world is losing out. Not just you, the world is losing out too. Um,
Mm.
Caitlin,
Really
when
beautiful. Really.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I said that's really beautiful. Really
Uh,
beautiful.
Um, what what are you most, speaking of imagining and having a vision,
Mm.
what are you most hopeful for in this world, given the changes? We're in a time of a lot of changes and a lot of chaos that's happening, right? But what
Mhm.
are you most hopeful for? Because I know you tap into another level beyond just what is tangibly happening in front of us. And
Yeah,
and you're bringing in your feminine energy as well as that masculine energy. So when you look at our future, what are you most hopeful
I
for
love this.
humanity?
They're great questions. Well, I am there's, the global level, there's the individual level, and they're all
Mhm,
connected, right?
mhm,
So I've always surrounded myself with people at the cutting edge of technology.
mhm,
And that would be a more sustainable, uh, ethical, nature-based, even alternatives to a lot of the technologies that are, causing harm or energy sources, right?
mhm,
So rather than, the oil, right? Because we're going to have to move out of that at some point. But that's one, is an environmental hope, that
mhm,
we start to really, bring technologies and solutions forward that are going to help the planet, because there's not going to be any of us if there's no, planet,
right.
right? Clean air
Mm,
and all the ways we can respect and work with nature. So that has been an ongoing hope and will always be my hope. With that, then there's the raising of consciousness,
mhm,
right? And the raising of consciousness that would include is inclusive,
mhm,
where we are tolerant, not of uh, not of hatred, and not of it's tricky, right? Because like
tolerant of our
tolerant of people's
uniqueness.
uniqueness
Yeah.
and kind.
Almost like acceptance or an openness, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah. And then with the consciousness raising, it's like, and everything, we've started to talk about is like just that self-awareness. And so if someone is in a kind of a, um, causing harm on some level to another being, that somehow they wake up and feel the pain of that and feel the grief of that and change, and this is all of us, right? All the ways in which we harm ourselves, harm nature, harm each other,
Mhm,
like that we really wake up and step into our divinity and step into love and step into ways in which we relate um, to like life itself
right.
with care, respect, um, camaraderie, um, and yeah, I mean, it's a big fish to fry.
You know, as you say that, what popped into my mind, back to what the theme really of this conversation is, um, I mean, we started with tapping into the femininity, which really is tapping into all of who you are. And as you just were saying that, the more that we self-reflect, the more that we the more that we self-reflect, the more that we tap into all of who we are, we can't help but
Yes.
start to raise that, if you want to say, raise that vibration or increase the consciousness of humanity, which
Mhm.
I want to underline that, because sometimes I think we think it's so outside of us, and the problems are outside of us, and the issues and the solutions are outside of us, right? And so that's, for anyone listening, who you are matters.
Yeah. Yes. Who you
And
are.
it's not who you are, like what your, what
Yeah.
your job title is necessarily.
No, who
Who
you
you
are
are.
being, who you
Who,
are, who you
yeah,
are.
yeah.
Yeah. And who
So beautiful.
and really just showing up, as our like most beautiful selves, our
Yeah,
soulful selves. And that also, I'll add also that we learn new ways of communicating with each other, because
right.
people I
Well,
don't
as we
think
learn
we've
more
been on
about
our best
ourselves,
behavior.
then we're going to be better able to communicate,
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And I really do, for all the stuff that's still going on in the world that is full on, we've progressed so far, both,
Yeah, right.
and so
Yeah,
I'm just gonna be
yeah,
on
yeah,
the team progress over
yeah.
here. Just
Stay focused on,
team evolution.
right,
We're not
right,
devolving, people.
right, right,
We
right.
are evolving, and that is the whole point, and we were always meant to evolve.
Yeah,
I just believe that, and that might be a messy journey, this like whole enlightenment thing. It's not going to be a straight road, but
I know, darn it.
I know, no, for all of it, and it
No, it's
involves
messy.
getting into the messy, and
Yeah,
it
yeah,
involves getting into the uncomfortable places,
right, right.
and then learning new ways to
Yeah,
balance and create what we want in the world, which is
beautiful. Which we all can do.
yeah.
So, if people want to learn more about you and what you're doing in the world, where
Yes,
would you, where, I mean, we'll have all of this in the notes, but
yes.
anywhere you want to specifically point them.
My website's great. It's
Okay.
caitlinnaramore.com.
Okay.
I don't know, do you need me to spell that? Are we going to drop a little link in the
I'll drop it in the comments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Okay.
caitlinnaramore.com.
Okay.
It's got all my coaching um, information in there, and it does have a page that has my music with links to
Okay.
Spotify and my music videos, because I've made 3 now. I
Yay.
went all in. I'm like,
Yay.
I gotta
That's
do it right. I
exciting.
gotta make the music. Come on.
And
I'm
just
a
in
child of the MTV era. I'm like, we do music videos. Come on.
music videos. Nice, nice. And before we end this conversation, is there anything I haven't asked you about, anything that you want to share with the audience today from your heart?
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing is just I'm very excited because I've started writing my first cookbook. And it's still in the wings, it's still in progress, but
Mhm.
that's another thing that I will die happy that I created, and
Mm.
to be able to share all these sumptuous
Mm.
gluten-free, sugar-free, dairy-free desserts that I've created over the
Wow.
years. Uh,
Oh, I'm sure people would be interested in
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll just
Ooh,
add that, because
looking forward to that.
also, health. We didn't even get into that. Health,
Right.
taking
Yeah.
care of our bodies is number one.
Yeah.
Number one. Yeah. So
Well, and I think as we tap in and we create that space like we were talking about, then you start to acknowledge more of how the body is part of it too. It's
it's
mind,
all
body. Yeah. That's a whole nother conversation, isn't it,
a whole other
Caitlin?
conversation. Keep going. 'Cause there's a
All
lot
right.
there, but
Anything else?
this has just been
Okay.
so beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your energy, what you're bringing to the world, and in all the different ways that you're bringing it. So thank you for being.
Yeah, it's my honor, my pleasure.